The sun was shining through the white curtains as friends and family gathered to celebrate Jasmine Parker's baby shower. She was glowing in a soft pink dress, her hands resting on her growing belly. Laughter filled the air, decorations hung on every wall, and a cake sat proudly at the center of the table that read, "Welcome, little one." Everything looked perfect on the outside. Jasmine, 30, had dreamed of this moment. Married to Michael, a man she loved deeply, and now expecting their first child. She had worked hard to build a stable life, one she never had growing up. Being in foster care most of her childhood, Jasmine longed for connection, for family. She thought she had finally found it, but not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Michael's mother, Diane, had always been distant. She wasn't openly rude, but her cold eyes and stiff smiles made Jasmine feel like a stranger. At every family event, Diane would throw in little jabs, comments that didn't sound bad at first, but always left a sting. Today was no different. The guests clinked their glasses, getting ready for a toast. Michael stood beside Jasmine, beaming. He raised his glass and said something sweet about becoming a father, about how proud he was of Jasmine. Everyone clapped. Jasmine blushed, gently leaning into her husband. Then Diane stepped forward, with a glass of wine in her hand and a strange smile. She leaned toward Jasmine and said, just loud enough for others to hear, "Well, at least it's not our blood." The room fell quiet. The smile froze on Jasmine's face. Her eyes locked on Diane's, unsure if she heard right. Michael let out a quick, nervous laugh and said, "Mum, don't start," trying to brush it off like it was a joke, but the damage was done. Jasmine felt like the floor had shifted beneath her. Her hands rested protectively over her belly. Around the room, guests looked away, awkward and silent. What did Diane mean by that? Was it about Jasmine, the baby, something deeper? The moment passed quickly. People moved on. The music started up again. But for Jasmine, the day had changed. Something had cracked inside her. A question had been planted, a quiet, cold whisper in her mind. And once a question like that begins, it never truly goes away. Jasmine never knew her real parents. She grew up in foster homes, moving from one family to another. No one ever kept her for long. She learned to take care of herself and not get too attached. Every time someone promised to love her, they ended up leaving. She stopped asking why. As she got older, she worked hard, studied, and dreamed of one thing, a real home, a family of her own. That dream started to feel real when she met Michael. Michael was kind, patient, and came from a wealthy, well-known family. They fell in love quickly. He made her feel seen, like she finally mattered. When they got married, Jasmine thought she had finally found a place to belong. But Michael's family was different from hers in every way. They were old-fashioned, proper, and liked to keep things quiet and controlled. They never said anything bad to Jasmine directly, but she could feel it. She didn't come from money. She didn't have a good name. She was someone they had to accept because Michael loved her, not someone they truly welcomed. Michael's mother, Diane, was the hardest to deal with. She was always polite in front of others, but cold when they were alone. She never asked Jasmine questions, never gave her a warm hug, or smiled too much. Jasmine told herself it didn't matter. Michael loved her. That should be enough. Now Jasmine was 8 months pregnant. She had picked out baby clothes, set up the nursery, and chosen a name. On the outside, everything looked perfect, but inside, she felt lonely. Michael was busy with work and kept telling her to ignore his mother's behavior. "That's just how she is," he always said. But Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She didn't know where she came from. She didn't know her roots. Sometimes, when she looked in the mirror, she wondered who she really was, what kind of woman her mother had been, if her father had ever thought of her. She had buried those questions for years. After the baby shower and Diane's comment, "At least it's not our blood," those questions came rushing back. What did Diane mean by that? Jasmine tried to push the thought away, but it kept coming back. It hurt more than she expected. She felt like she didn't belong again, just like when she was a child. A few days later, her friend Talia came over to visit. They sat on the couch, drinking tea, talking about the baby. Talia brought up a popular DNA test people were taking for fun. "You can find your ancestors, maybe even some relatives," she said with a smile. "Who knows? You might discover something amazing." Jasmine hesitated. The idea scared her. What if she found nothing? Or worse, something painful? But later that night, she sat on her bed, holding the DNA kit Talia had left behind. She took a deep breath and decided to find out the truth. A few weeks after sending her DNA sample, Jasmine got an email saying her results were ready. She opened the website, expecting to see something simple, maybe a list of countries where her ancestors came from, maybe a mix of African, European, or something else. She was curious, but calm. But what she saw shocked her. There was a name listed under close family match. It said, Elaine Hargrove, parent-child match. Jasmine's heart began to race. Her hands started to shake. She blinked at the screen over and over again. How could this be? She had always been told that her birth parents were unknown. Some papers had said they were probably dead. That was why she was placed in the foster system. She had believed that for most of her life. But now, right here, in front of her, was a woman alive, someone who matched her DNA closely enough to be a mother. Her mind spun. Was this real? Could it be a mistake? She didn't tell Michael right away. He had already brushed off her feelings at the baby shower. When she finally showed him the result, he looked surprised, then concerned. Maybe it's wrong, he said. These tests mess up all the time. Let's just forget it. But Jasmine couldn't forget it. Her whole life had been built on a question mark. Now, for the first time, there was a real answer. She stayed up that night, sitting in the quiet living room, staring at the name on the screen. Finally, she clicked the message button and wrote a short note. Hello, I think we might be related. My name is Jasmine Parker. I just got my DNA results, and your name came up. I hope this isn't strange, but I'd really like to talk. She waited 2 days for a reply. It felt like forever. Then the message came. Dear Jasmine, I've been waiting for this message my whole life. Please, can we meet? They agreed to meet at a small coffee shop in the next town. Jasmine wore a simple blue dress and didn't put on makeup. She didn't know what to expect. Was this woman kind? Was she dangerous? Was she ready for answers? When Jasmine walked in, she saw a woman in her early 50s, sitting at the back clutching a cup of tea. The woman looked up and froze. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then the woman stood up slowly, her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, You're mine, and then started crying. Jasmine didn't know what to say. She felt frozen. Everything inside her was turning upside down. This woman was a stranger, but something about her eyes, the shape of her face, felt oddly familiar. Her whole world had just changed. Elaine and Jasmine sat at a quiet table in the park a few days later. Elaine held Jasmine's hand and told her everything. Elaine said she got pregnant at 16. Her parents were ashamed and sent her to a Catholic shelter for pregnant girls. It was strict. They weren't allowed to talk much. They had to follow rules, pray every day, and stay hidden from the world. When Elaine gave birth, she remembered hearing her baby cry for a second. But then a nurse told her the baby had died. Elaine cried every day for years. Something inside her never believed it, but her parents forced her to move on. She never got answers. Jasmine listened quietly, her heart heavy. All these years, she had lived without knowing her real story, and Elaine had suffered in silence, thinking her baby was gone. Later that night, Jasmine sat with Michael and told him what she had learned. She watched his face carefully. Michael looked nervous. He didn't ask many questions. Finally, she asked him, Did you know anything about this? Michael sighed and looked down. Then he said, My mum, Diane, she knew. She's always known who you are. Jasmine's heart stopped. Michael continued, She believed you were my dad's child. He had an affair when he was young. Diane thought you were the result. She found out through her sister, Aunt Julia. Remember? The lawyer? Jasmine nodded slowly. She handled adoptions back in the 90s. Diane kept track of all the babies, just in case. When she saw your name, your file and the photo, she guessed. That's why she wanted me to date you. She thought she could keep things in the family. Jasmine stared at him, not believing what she was hearing. So the baby shower comment, It's not our blood. Michael nodded. She meant it wasn't hers. She thought the baby had my father's blood, not hers. Jasmine felt like the floor under her had cracked open. Her whole marriage suddenly felt fake. Had Michael ever truly loved her? Or was she just part of some twisted plan his mother made? She went back to her room that night and cried. Elaine texted, asking to meet again, but Jasmine couldn't bring herself to reply. Her heart was too heavy. Elaine wanted to make up for lost time, to be a real mother to her now, but Jasmine didn't know what she wanted anymore. Everything was too much. Michael tried to comfort her, saying he loved her, that it didn't matter how they met, but Jasmine couldn't trust his words. Not now. She had lost her past, her future felt broken, and her present was full of lies. Jasmine sat alone on the couch staring at the envelope in her hands. It was the full DNA test, not just the fun ancestry one, but the deep kind that gave every detail. She had to know the truth, no more secrets. She opened the results slowly, her hands shaking. The first line confirmed what she already knew. Elaine was her biological mother, but then her eyes moved down to the second part. It didn't make sense. The test said the person she matched with as her biological mother wasn't Elaine. It was Diane. Jasmine's heart started racing. She checked again. The name was clear. Diane Parker. Diane, her cold, sharp-tongued mother-in-law. The woman who had insulted her at the baby shower. The woman who had never hugged her or shown a single moment of kindness. Diane wasn't just Michael's mother. She was Jasmine's mother too. No, this can't be right, Jasmine whispered, reading it again. But the results were there. DNA didn't lie. Her mind ran in circles. Could the system have messed up? Was it a mistake? Then she remembered something Elaine said, that the paperwork was all handled by Diane's sister, the lawyer. What if the files had been changed? What if Diane, not Elaine, had given birth in that Catholic shelter? Suddenly it all made sense. Diane must have gotten pregnant as a teenager. Maybe her parents forced her to hide it. Maybe she chose to hide it herself, to protect her family's reputation. She gave birth in secret, and then, through her sister, placed the baby, Jasmine, into the system under someone else's name. Elaine was probably used as a cover, a fake mother on fake papers, a name to fill the blank. And Jasmine was passed around, never knowing where she came from, never knowing the truth. But Diane knew. She always knew. Jasmine couldn't keep it inside. She drove to the Parker family home and walked straight in. Diane was in the living room. When she saw Jasmine, she raised her eyebrows. "What now?" she asked coldly. "I know the truth," Jasmine said. Diane's smile faded. "What are you talking about? I got a full DNA test. You're my biological mother, not Elaine. You." Diane's face went pale. She didn't deny it. She didn't even blink. "You were the one who was pregnant at 16, Jasmine continued. "You hid it, used your sister to make it disappear. You gave me away." Diane stood very still. Then she slowly sat down. "You ruined my life once," she said, her voice flat. "I wasn't about to let you do it again." Jasmine felt a chill in her bones. That's why Diane hated her. Not because of who she married, not because of class or money, but because every time she saw Jasmine, she remembered the baby she gave up, the secret she buried, the anger, the coldness. It was never about Jasmine. It was about Diane's own guilt and shame. Jasmine stood there in silence, everything suddenly clear. Jasmine packed her things slowly. Her baby girl slept peacefully in a bassinet nearby. The apartment was quiet, but inside Jasmine felt strong. After everything that happened, she knew what she had to do. She moved out of Michael's house and into a small rental of her own. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. She filed for divorce the next day. Michael begged her to stay. He said he still loved her. But Jasmine had heard enough lies. Love without honesty didn't mean much anymore. She also cut ties with Diane completely. No more visits. No more fake smiles. No more pretending. Diane's secret had hurt so many people, and Jasmine refused to let that darkness touch her daughter. Elaine was heartbroken. She had believed she was Jasmine's mother, but even through the pain, she showed love. She said, "I may not have given birth to you, but I still love you like a daughter." And Jasmine believed her. Elaine stayed by her side, helping with the baby, cooking meals, and just listening when Jasmine cried. For the first time in her life, Jasmine felt truly cared for. She started going to therapy, where she learned to talk about her past, the pain of growing up in foster care, the longing to belong, and the betrayal she'd just faced. Slowly, she began to heal. One day, Jasmine sat down and wrote everything out in a blog post. She told her story simply and honestly about Diane, the secret adoption, and how she found the truth. She didn't expect much from it, but the post went viral. Thousands of people read it. Many reached out to say they had gone through something similar. Some even said her courage helped them speak up for the first time. Jasmine realized she wasn't alone. Michael saw the post and tried to call. He showed up at her door one evening, holding flowers and an apology. "I made mistakes," he said, "but I still love you. Can we try again?" Jasmine looked at her daughter, then back at him. "No, she said gently. I'm not the same person anymore. Michael looked shocked, but Jasmine stayed calm. She'd spent years trying to be accepted. By him, by Diane, by the world. Not anymore. She didn't need their approval. She had herself. As for Diane, her reputation slowly crumbled. People whispered, family avoided her, and her proud name lost its shine. She was left alone with the truth she tried to bury. Jasmine didn't hate her, but she didn't forgive her either. She chose peace. She chose to raise her daughter in love, not secrets. She chose the family she wanted, not the one she was forced into. And as she rocked her baby to sleep one night, Jasmine smiled softly. She didn't need to know where she came from, to know where she was going. Jasmine sat at the small desk in her living room. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow through the window. Her baby girl was asleep nearby, wrapped in a soft pink blanket. Jasmine picked up a pen and began to write. My sweet girl, she wrote, one day you'll have questions about where you came from, about your family, about me. She paused, took a deep breath, and continued. I want you to know this. You are not a secret. You are not something to hide or be ashamed of. You are the beginning of something new. A new story, one filled with truth, with love, and with choice. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she kept writing. I may not have had all the answers when I found out the truth. I was scared. I was hurt. But I chose you. I chose to be your mother with my whole heart. Not because of blood, not because of duty, but because of love. She smiled softly as she wrote the last words. Whatever happens in life, always remember this. You are wanted, you are loved, and you are free to write your own story just like I did. She signed it simply, your mother, Jasmine. Jasmine folded the letter and placed it in a small box beside a photo of her holding her baby for the first time. She stood up, walked to the window, and gently cradled her daughter in her arms. The city lights flickered in the distance, and a soft breeze moved through the curtains. Jasmine looked out quietly, her heart calm. She wasn't lost anymore. She didn't need to keep searching for where she belonged. She was a mother now. She was home.